I think Kanye West doesn't need introduction. I think everybody knows exactly who Kanye West is. This guy is literally possible. This guy's possibly the most influential artist of our generation. I mean, literally without Kanye, we wouldn't have what trap is, and trap is such a predominant part of what is hip hop music and rap music. Like right now, like in modern times, it just blows my mind and blows everybody's mind because nobody would expect this type of music to last this long. You know, people thought it would just be a trend for a few years and then it'll be completely gone, but it's been running strong for almost an entire decade at this point. So it's been a while since Kanye really dropped the record. I mean, it's been what I would say a year, or counting this year as well, 2 years since he's dropped Jesus is King, which a lot of people were really divided upon. I think people saw that Kanye wasn't really being himself in this record. And also that album, I would argue that it sounds like the least Kanye West record ever. It doesn't really sound like him at all. It sounds like he just made a whole record to preach God and not just, I guess, be more self-aware of other things. That's what I would say of the record. But it wasn't necessarily a terrible record as most people make out to be, but I felt that it was sort of a low point. Thankfully, 2 years later, Kanye West has fully recovered. Donda is really what I think everybody wanted Jesus King to be. Like, I mean, this album has had an insane rollout with the whole promotional stuff with the listening parties. I think there have been like, what, 3 or 4 listening parties at this point. I think the last one he like remarried Kim Kardashian. I don't know if it's like actually Kim Kardashian or not, but I remember like he was sort of like marrying her or something. I'm not entirely sure, but I remember seeing like something about that. But as I was saying, this rollout is just crazy, and it reminds me of the same rollout Pablo had. The whole listening party, the whole gathering, all of the artists coming together, vibing to these unreleased tracks. So as I said earlier, Donda drop. It's here, and it reminds me a lot of the life of Pablo. Like, it really just reminds me so much of the life of Pablo. The intro track, Donda Chant, the mere fact that this track has already been memed to oblivion and hasn't been an entire day, not even like a week, and this track has been memed to the oblivion is just surprising for me. But yeah, I mean, I'm not even kidding. This track is literally just some girl saying Donda, 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 Donda. It even starts to sound like she's saying thunder. I don't know if that's supposed to be what he's trying to say or something, but okay. For our next track, J.O. featuring Jay-Z, which this track is honestly crazy, and I guess you can consider it the true beginning of Donda. Features a heavy electronic guitar. It reminded me a lot of what My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy sounded like, and with a mix of Ye, just like ghost town with those heavy electronic guitars. It reminded me something like that. Kanye in this track discusses J.O. being a symbolism of hell, I would say, and how we're all liars, how we're all sinners, you know, and that God can forgive us for his sins, because it says that God is like, I think he said something like God is going to I think God is going to bail you out of jail. I think like that's one of the lines he said, which kind of makes sense because it's saying that God forgives you. You know, it's saying that God will forgive you for your sins and stuff, and that we're all sinners and we're all liars at some point, which is actually a concept that is later repeated throughout the record. As for JC, you know, I've seen a lot of people say that this verse is really corny because he said the whole thing of I'm an image of God and it's like a selfie or something like that. I honestly just think this is JC being JC. I don't think it's even corny. I just think that's him and it's a funny line. So God Breathe is when the bop starts to roll in. We have this really bouncy 808 pattern, and this production that sounds something like straight out of Jesus. Like literally when I heard those little chopped up boxes and that 808 pattern, as I was saying, it reminded me of something straight out of Jesus. Like it reminded me of I Am a God. It reminded me like the same beat, the whole like pattern with it reminded me of it. And the production wise, like overall on this record gave me some pretty big Jesus vibe. As I was saying earlier, there is a lot of bops in this record, and I mean it makes sense because this entire record is quite literally 1 hour and 50 minutes. Well, it's actually 1 hour and 48 minutes with 27 tracks, which is extremely long, but it's extremely enjoyable at the same time. Off the Grid is one of the craziest tracks out of here, and it's possibly one of the biggest bop moments out of the entire record. I mean, this track literally has Fivio Foreign and has Playboy Cardi in the same track. Like this thing is like a battle royale at this point. But I love the transition between a more of a sort of a, you know, trap house type of aesthetic with Playboy Cardi giving out his very eccentric vocals and Kanye West giving out his part, to then transitioning seamlessly to this drill type of song with Fivio Foreign, which absolutely destroys his performance. The whole track lyrically isn't necessarily something mind-blowing, but just everybody's performance and the mere fact that in 2 minutes this track transitioned to something like it's a drill type and like something completely different was just crazy for me, because there was like so many stuff going on that I couldn't process. Hurricane is possibly my favorite track out of this entire record. I'm being honest. Like, it probably is my favorite track. It's a majestic track. That's all I'm gonna say. So The Weeknd and Lil Baby in the same track, and The Weeknd giving out is like goated like performance. The 90 degrees. Just the singing from The Weeknd itself. The whole thing feels angelic. Like, just words cannot put how much I enjoyed The Weeknd's performance, how much I enjoyed the entire sentiment of the track, the whole lyrical substance of the track, you know, saying that God will never leave by their side, you know, God will never leave by your side, and he'll always stick to you no matter what. And what makes it even crazier is that's like the choir chops that are in this thing. As like when it builds up, it's like the chorus section, like the whole beat, I was saying the whole thing is crazy, and words cannot put what I felt listening to a track. Lil Baby did his stuff, like miraculously. Lil Baby was a perfect fit for this track. Like I said in that off-season review, like Lil Baby's gonna have the same thing as 21 Savage. Like he's gonna get better and better and better and better and better, and just man, like it's just it's so great to see artists like, you know, like these evolve. Also, quick thing here, I also want to talk about Kanye's verse, you know, talking about the pressure of facing with the press, you know, facing the pressure that the press is always around you, constantly around you, criticizing you, and not, I guess, having time to breathe. How I think everything feels like a hurricane and it's trapping you inside. Praise God is another huge bout featuring Travis Scott and Baby Keem, which both of them in the same track. I know I made a track together, which is Durag Activity, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but this is really the track that I needed them. Like, they needed both of them to sound the same track. Baby Keem actually is just like a huge standout in this track. Like, his whole performance, even though he does end up being like Mickey Mouse in the last verse, Baby Keem is being super playful with his performance. It somehow doesn't end up becoming that obnoxious. Travis Scott delivers his great verse as well, and Kanye, as always, is Kanye and delivers his great verse as well. This song reminds me of what a Bob of Jesus is King should have sounded like. Praising God, but doing it in a fun, entertaining way. Like, do it with a fun, entertaining way, providing, I guess, a broader audience, you know, because with Travis Scott and Baby Keem, you're bound to get more listeners involved in here. As I said earlier, this whole album is an hour and 48 minutes long with 27 tracks. It is extremely packed in here. I guess some of the cons that I have with this record, but they're really minor, because like, I guess the sort of quote-unquote cons that I have with this record, which is extremely minor because of how enjoyable this record is as a whole, would be, I guess, that there's some tracks that don't really do anything. I get that Television, you know, is supposed to be this tribute to Pop Smoke, but I don't know, there could have been a better tribute, you know, placed in there. It sort of feels there to just fill in the void, which there isn't a void, because this whole record is extremely long. And also, I guess the other con that I have with the record is how the entire record is just a clean version. I mean, I don't know this is what Kanye was trying to go for, just like the clean version, because I mean, Christian and stuff like that, and he doesn't want to swear and stuff, even though that there are clear implications that he's using like swear words in here. As I said earlier, Donda has an extremely packed list of features. As I said, it had like Travis Scott, it had Baby Keem, it had Jay-Z, it has Playboi Carti, which Playboi Carti also makes another appearance in Junya. I don't even know how to say that title correctly, but man, do these two, like, just Kanye and Carti, like, this is what I wanted them to sound like in Go to the Moon. Don't get me wrong, Go to the Moon was great chemistry, but it just felt more of Kanye instead of Carti. This one feels really balanced, and it feels like what I wanted it to sound. I guess the other con that I have with this record, it's how weirdly divided it is. What I mean divided, I mean that some tracks have like a part 2, where it's like an alternative version of the track. For example, Jail Part 2 features the Baby's verse, which was already heard in the listening party and was excluded from the original version of Jail, which is substituted for Jay-Z's verse. But at the same time, I was like, you know, why not just include the Baby's verse while you're at it? Like, I mean, just some tracks in here, the part 2 and so, I felt that it would have been better if you just included them like in the original, because like their verses aren't even that long. I think Ty Dolla $ign and Junya Part 2 wasn't even that long of a verse. It was like 30 or 20 seconds. Like, it could have fit easily in there. So I want to talk more about the concept of this record and the themes applied here. As I said earlier, there was how everybody is, I guess, a liar and a sinner. deep down inside, and how no one is necessarily telling the truth exactly. There's one track that I forgot the name of that talked more about how you won't escape the truth, and how the truth will always come back to you. It will somehow at some time just come out of nowhere. What makes Donda interesting is that there's so many stuff to unpack in here. There's like I was saying earlier, the themes of how the truth is unavoidable. This record also deals with Kanye's depression after his mother passed away. Ironically enough, there's like probably I would say 2 tracks out of the entire record that I guess talked more about Kanye's depression after his mother passed away, which is Jesus Lord, that has a whole entire verse dedicated to Kanye's mother. There was like these 2 lines that really, really hit me deep, which was, "You were the life of the party, and when you passed away, there wasn't like a life in the party," which was honestly just seeing Kanye depressed over years because of his mother's passing, and how much his mother brought so much joy into him and so much passion. I feel super bad for Kanye. I feel extremely bad for Kanye, and I like that this is therapeutic for him. I like that Donda, in this verse as a whole, this song as a whole, feels therapeutic for him mentally. And I can't believe how much he suffered from losing his mother. This track also has more of a storytelling type of track, focusing more on a person who grows up to be the product of his environment, but is stuck in there and can't really do anything, while his mother, I guess, obsesses over drugs and medicine and stuff like that, and that's like the only way she can find true joy. This comes more from, I guess, Kanye's perspective of how he perceives and sees the hood and areas around him. And the other track that really speaks more about Donda, I would say, is literally the track called Donda. I mean, it's a 2-minute and 6-second track that plays a sample of Kanye's mother speaking, how grateful she is to have Kanye, how grateful she is to see Kanye grow as an artist and as her child, which is kind of a heartwarming and heart-touching moment for that thing. Return to the main thing of this record, how this record has so many things going on about it. As I was saying, I started the concept, I started the themes, the religious themes, the whole thing about grieving for Kanye's mother's loss, and a lot of stuff going on. This record plays out a lot like The Life of Pablo, as I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of bops filled in here, and as I was saying, there's a whole lot of features. Pure Souls blew my mind because this track it transitions so beautifully. I mean, from Roddy Ricch beginning with his strong voice, and this whole track feeling like super, I guess, uplifting. It feels more of a vibe type of track, to then transitioning to the last 2 minutes for this organ filled, like, I'm talking about like a church, almost like a church organ type of feeling, with these angelic vocals from this singer. I don't remember her name, but she did a fantastic job. I know she was I know she had some another few tracks as well in this record, but just the angelic performance that she puts on here is amazing. This whole record feels like the Avengers assembled for anything. Like, there's like 20 people or like 30 people involved in here, and like they're all putting like all of their will, all of their power to make sure this record becomes as satisfactory as it can. And like Kanye is just there guiding everyone. Believe What I Say is one of the coolest tracks I've heard in Kanye's discography. Kanye samples the doo-wop, the song from Lauryn Hill, but he makes it his own remix, I would say. I mean, it feels like a remix, it feels like sort of like a remix. What I really like about this track is that instead of just using a doo-wop, like just using the sample of doo-wop, he makes his own melody out of this, and the whole bass line that goes in here, the whole vibe is it's crazy. It really is crazy. I think he had like some sidechain part in here that makes this thing that makes it even go crazier. I like how he's talking more about here, saying that, believe what I have to say, don't be worried about what happened, just believe in the word, believe in what I have to say. I'll help you out in the best that I can. 24 is what I would call the abuse of choirs, but I'm not even mad because the whole thing sounds extremely epic. Everything feels glorious. This whole song just makes me want to go to church, and that's something really hard to do. I also want to add that I really enjoyed the lyrical content of 24. It seems like Kanye sort of seems confused, and he wants to seek acceptance from God. He wants to seek acceptance from the people around him. It feels that he wants to convince himself that everything is all right, through this strife, through the battle that he is facing internally and mentally. I also really like that Kanye is searching for self-acceptance into himself. Because as he says in the song, you know, people really want to be told that they're okay, that everything's gonna be alright, to help their ego and to help their self-esteem. And also speaking about majestic and like huge heavy beats, Heaven and Hell, it's crazy because like the song is a pretty short song, but when the beat drops in this song, it's like I don't even know how to process it. Like the whole choir just coming, like just sliding in there seamlessly, and then transitioning to the side chain type of effect. I was saying the whole thing about this is just a crazy thing to unpack and to unfold. Moon was a song that I was a little bit indifferent on my first listen, but on my second listen I grew. I remember hearing the snippets for this. It features Don Toliver going at an extremely high pitch. It makes it better just Kid Cudi with his hums and his singing delivery and the guitar playing in the background. Like it gives this astronomical experience, which is another thing about this record, that it applies you. And whenever they go with these reverby organs or these reverbing pads, these reverb pads and stuff like that, the whole experience sounds glorious. It sounds like you're in this freaking space, you know. It sounds like heaven, exactly like heaven. Which, thinking about it more, it actually makes sense. It's an entire thing. The entire album is called Donda, and obviously, you know, his mom is in heaven. This whole record feels like we're ascending towards heaven. It's almost like we're seeing her, and we're seeing everybody in heaven. I know that I'm overthinking it, but just the whole entire sound of the record feels so angelic. I mean, the track No Child Left Behind is a pure definition of astronomical. I mean, do I even need to speak about this track? I mean, I get that people are going to say, like, I think there was a whole fuzz about it, you know, there's not that much lyrical context to it. It doesn't matter. The whole thing feels like you're freaking levitating. He's done miracles on me. Things this simple have the biggest effect. I wasn't a huge fan of Remote Control, which features Young Thug. Surprisingly, I mean, when I heard Thugger, I was like, how many more features can you stuff in this record? I would say that the song is fine. You know, it's alright. I wasn't a huge fan of the melody wise. I wasn't necessarily a huge fan. Thugger did his thing. It was fine. Like the whole lyrical substance of it, that you shouldn't let other people control you. You should control yourself. You should control your own actions and stuff. Keep My Spirit Alive added more fuel to this record, featuring Westside Gunn and Conway the Machine. Oh my god, I wanted to say that so badly. You don't know how long I've been waiting to say Kanye West, Conway the Machine, and Westside Gunn in the same track together. Like, I seen photos of them, you know, linking up, and I heard, and I knew they were going to be in the record. But at the same time, I was like, I don't know if they're going to be in this record. Like, how are they going to fit in this record? But just listening to them in this record is extremely satisfying. They did their thing. They applied their narrative to this record. I like the message of this song, you know, saying that you should keep on writing to keep the spirit alive. You know, you should keep on calling their names. You should keep on, as I was saying, writing, keep on remembering them, and to keep the spirit alive. Returning to the more bop side with OK OK, which has a surprising feature from Lil Yachty. I mean, actually, I was a bit skeptical when I heard Lil Yachty, but he really did his thing, and like he really went in on this thing. Like Kanye is like Kanye. What I like about Kanye is that as he did with The Life of Pablo, he knows how to use features as a weapon and as a tool, and he knows how to, I guess, use them correct. But yeah, as I was saying, OK OK is a great bop of a track. This has like some really bouncy 808s. The track Come to Life just reminds me of like an anime opening, because like the second half is like this extremely like quick piano melody that just reminds you of something from Your Lie in April. Jokes aside, I'm surprised that Wheezy produces beat. I think Wheezy like produces beat. When I heard that Wheezy tag, I was like, what? I was like, wow, how can you produce something like this? This track sees Kanye trying to reconnect to his mother, trying to reconnect with the lost souls, trying to reconnect with the people he lost along the journey. Track New Again starts off with this really Kanye-like humor. Honestly, it gave me so much joy, because it proved, it was that last thing to prove that Kanye didn't lose his identity as a whole and didn't just emerge into super religious Christianism type of Kanye and not become himself. Which I like, you know, because he still has that humor there. There's some tracks in here in this record that has that pop flavor in it, and this is probably one of the best examples of it. And I really like it, you know, I really mess with it. Well, I'm not a huge fan when rappers, you know, rap on pop type of instrumentals, but how he does it in here, it feels so organic and authentic that it's something amazing. Donda as a whole is one of the most rebellious things like Kanye West has ever done, I would say. I mean, this guy has been teasing this record for years, teasing us with these listening parties that have been very extravagant, freaking renting the Mercedes-Benz Stadium for like every day, and it costs him like what, $1 million, which like I get that Kanye's a billionaire, but $1 million per day to stay in a stadium, like that is insane. Like just $1 million in itself per day is crazy. But yeah, you know, the whole pressure that's been applied for Kanye for this thing, the whole like just the whole madman, the mad lad thing that Kanye has done throughout these days and throughout these years is crazy. It proves that Kanye can really do anything he wants. You know, and pulling something like this just proves that Kanye is passionate about his work. And I can see people not liking this record. You know, I already heard critics being very mixed about this. Some people calling it mid or whatever. And I feel that this is going to have the Playboy Cardi effect with Whole Lotta Red, that people really hated Whole Lotta Red. You know, like people just called it extremely trash and whatever, and like just boring and stuff like that. But then like a week later, people were praising this record. You know, I feel that effect will come to Kanye West. I feel that effect is going to come to this record. I can just sense it already. This record is obviously bound to change. I think it's gonna undergo the same thing Life of Pablo did. That it's gonna remove some verses or probably include some verses. Like probably the part 2 things like Jail Part 2 with the baby is probably gonna be included in the original Jail featuring Jay-Z. It's probably going to be like that. I mean, I hope it's going to be like that because that verse is actually pretty cool. And I feel that just like as separate things, it's not bad to have separate songs, like alternative versions, but I feel that they're better off just putting that verse into the original song. So what would I give Donda? I'm going to give Donda a 9 out of 10. Like, I get that this record literally just got released and there's bound to be change, but just so far, and like the amount of like time I've listened to this record, I have been sunk into this place. I've been sunk into this whole angelic place, this whole angelic setting, this astronomical setting, and this whole mindset that Kanye has. So what do you guys think of this record? Do you guys love it? Do you guys hate it? Let me know in the comments down below. What would you rate it? Also, if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below. So don't forget to subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you don't miss an upload from me. And yeah, stay safe from COVID, everybody. Listen to Donda and stay safe, everybody. Peace out.